Who is the NFL player comp for Bijan Robinson?
Like a generational running back prospect.
Jesus Christ.
Who's the NFL comp for Anthony Richardson?
Richardson is a wild one because I don't know that he has an NFL comp. I've seen Mike Renner, our draft guy, has compared him to Josh Allen, and you can kind of see why just in terms of giant physical size, the huge arm, the athleticism, like that makes some sense. But that, I think, kind of undersells what Richardson can do running the football. I don't know that there is a comp. Like the most crazy one I saw recently was somebody saying that he was like a combination of Cam Newton and Justin Fields, right?
Jesus
supercharged Cam Newton's speed, and that's Anthony Richardson. That feels like it's going a little far, but like that's
That
the
is
kind of
a
world.
bold take. Yeah, I love
That's
it.
wild.
My favorite part about player comps
Yeah.
is you just throw out a wild name and you just hope that that's their ceiling, which I totally understand. That's how it works. But like Anthony Richardson is far more of a project than Cam Newton ever was. Would you say?
He also, I mean, he wasn't as good in college as Cam Newton was. Like that's part of this. Is Cam Newton was this super freak in college who literally dragged a team to a national title that wouldn't have been anywhere near that without him. Anthony Richardson was good, but he didn't do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, him and Will Levis are both two players I feel like that have all these physical tools and gifts, and, you know, people are looking at that, and that's the reason why they're such a highly touted prospect. But, like, what does a lack of college performance with those two guys, like, how much do you weigh that in the draft process? Because for me, I think that says a lot. If you can't carry a team, like you said, like a Cam Newton did, how can you trust these guys to carry your team when you have a high draft pick? Your team's probably not as good around you, like, to carry that team forward.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think they're slightly different for those two quarterbacks. I think there's a bigger criticism for Richardson in those terms where you can say, all right, you were on Florida. They had quite a lot of talent. You didn't manage to take them anywhere special. When you look at Levis, like he had nothing around him this year. His supporting cast was by far the worst of any of these guys. There were so many plays where he would put the ball in the air and his receivers would just like watch it sail into the hands of a defensive back. And you're like, come on, give the guy some help here. He's trying to do all this on his own against a Georgia defense. It's just destroying everything. And you guys are not even trying to help him out. Like Levis, I think, really didn't have the help around him. And he's in the SEC as well. Like he's got this staffed supporting system with receivers and offensive line. He's going up against the best teams in the nation in the SEC. He's the guy I think that has the most valid excuse of like there was a realistic ceiling here, and he probably got close to it.
Who is the NFL player comp for Bijan Robinson?
So he reminded me of Christian McCaffrey. And the thing is, McCaffrey was a good athlete, with the exception of his three cone, which is like off the charts good, like insane. Everything else was pretty good, like a decent 40, a decent broad jump, a decent vertical, but it wasn't great. Bijan reminds me of like, okay, let's take Christian McCaffrey and make him a really good athlete. Now what do you get? That, to me, is Bijan. That's why I think you're talking about like a generational running back prospect, a guy that might be the best running back PFF has seen come into the draft, which we started grading college in 2014. So I think he's probably the best running back we've ever seen hit the NFL over that period. And we might be going back as far as like Adrian Peterson in 2007.
Wait.
So how much better is he? Because every few years there's a guy like this. There's a running back like this that everyone's talking about.
Like
Saquon was that. Zeke was that before that.
McCaffrey.
How much better is he than a Zeke coming out of Ohio State or a Saquon coming out of Penn State?
I think Zeke is up there, but I think he is a more complete player than Saquon was coming out. Saquon, everybody loved his insane ability, his agility, his tactical break-in, but there were concerns about like he wants to bounce everything outside.
Yeah,
right? It was kind of like throwbacks to Reggie Bush. Does that work in the NFL? Like, is he going to give up too much yardage trying to make a big home run hit on the outside? And I think people were fairly concerned about that as how that would go. There's no concerns about how Bijan Robinson plays. Like, he's good at everything. He's a great receiver. He always hits the right hole. He maximizes the yardage that's there. When he does hit the hole, he's just such a polished and complete player. And I think he has a little bit more athleticism to his game than Zeke, which is why what would separate him as the top of that prospect tree.
So you're saying Bijan? Hold on.
The next Adrian Peterson.
Yeah. So
we got the soundbite. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So you're saying pretty much Bijan Robinson is arguably the best running back prospect PFF has seen since 2014.
when they started.
When you guys started
I
grading
think
running backs?
he is, yeah. I think he is the best running back prospect we've seen come into the draft since 2014. He might be the best prospect to come along since Adrian Peterson.
That's
Oh my
insane.
God.
That makes me so excited.
And you know where Adrian Peterson is from, right? Texas, baby.
Well, which then kind of concerns me over like the next question that I guess I would have is, I mean, do the Philadelphia Eagles draft Bijan Robinson at 10 with Miles Sanders being a free agent?
Yeah, it's such a fascinating conversation, right? Because PFF, analytics generally, we've been kind of at the forefront of this. Don't commit big resources to running backs.
Right.
Don't pay them the second contract in free agency. Don't draft them at the top of the draft. Like the quote unquote running backs don't matter. Like that was always silly. That was always taking it too far. But there is a conversation of like how much is too much resources to put towards a running back. I think drafting one in the first round is fine. When you look at the contracts that those guys get for the rookie deals, you can go quite high up in the draft before it starts to become an expensive deal. And I think you're talking about that kind of borderline top 10 range. I think that's fine from a contract standpoint. But then you get into what's the opportunity cost, right? If we take this guy at 10, what did we leave on the table?
Right.
And for Philadelphia, they're obviously in a good spot roster-wise. They just got to the Super Bowl, but they are losing some pieces. They could stand to add a body on the defensive line, replace Javon Hargrave if they don't bring him back. They're going to need a cornerback probably if they let James Bradbury hit free agency. These are players where they could probably take the top guy on the board at what is a more valuable, more impactful position than running back. So if you're just looking at it in value terms of if he becomes great, and we're paying him this contract, is it worth it? Sure. But I think you have to look at what you would be leaving on the table. And for Philadelphia, I would say it's probably not worth going in that direction if you have a more valuable position still on the board.
Well, I feel like what makes the most sense for the Eagles at that point, because they need a running back, and you're saying he's arguably, if not the best prospect that you guys have seen since AP, would be to package 10 really and to be able to move back. Because now that you have 10 and 30 or 31 or whatever it might be, because you have the Saints pick, essentially you have a lot of flexibility. So Bijan is very much in the range of opportunity for the Eagles, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I mean, if they were able to move back, 5 draft spots, trade with somebody, move back 5 spots and have, that first round pick and maybe something extra as well, and be able to, or, free agency can change a lot, right? There's going to be players available in free agency, and maybe some of these holes that are holes right now are not going to be glaring weaknesses on the roster by the time they roll into the draft. Right. That changes the story as well. So I think they're definitely in a position where they're going to have some options, and I'd say he's a live option for them, but I probably wouldn't draft him at 10 given what else they have in need right now.
Who are some of your player comps this year? Let us know in the comments. Remember to like, subscribe, and to check out all of Sam's stuff, head over to PFF_Sam on Twitter. He's one of the lead NFL analysts at PFF, so shout out to him for coming on and check out his socials.